Hello, and welcome to the kitchen. My name is Katie, and I'm a dietetic intern with Seattle Pacific University, working with the Lynnwood Food Bank. Join me for some recipes and nutrition tips. Today, I'm going to be preparing roasted squash. There are many roasted squash recipes that include things like sugar, cheese, spices, and herbs. Today, I'm going to be demonstrating the simplest, easiest way of roasting a squash, and then you can tailor it to your flavors at home. I have here a carnival squash. This is a hybrid between an acorn squash and a sweet dumpling squash. But this preparation method I'm going to show you can be used for any kind of squash. Acorn squash, butternut, even pumpkin. Squash is a seasonal produce that's available through the early fall through the winter season. So it's a hearty, delicious comfort food that's great through the cold months. It's packed with fiber. This squash is high in vitamin A, which is important for your night sight. It's high in vitamin C, which is important for immunity. It's also high in vitamin B6, which is important for generating energy and for red blood cell production. It's also high in magnesium and potassium, which have heart healthy benefits. So let's get started. I have here my carnival squash. I also have an oil. Here I have olive oil, salt, and pepper. Kitchen equipment, cutting board, a knife, a spoon to scoop out all of the seeds, and a bowl to collect them. I have an oven, and I also have a baking sheet that we'll use for roasting. So let's get started. So I have here my washed squash. The first thing I'm going to do with my knife is cut all the way around, starting from the top of the stem, cutting down towards the base, and then all the way around to the other side so that I've divided it from top to bottom, and I have two halves. So I have split my squash in two halves. Next, I'm going to take my spoon and use it to scoop out the inner pulp and the seeds. So I have this bowl set aside here to collect them because I'm going to save the seeds and roast them. You can roast squash seeds by first washing off all of the pulp and drying out the seeds. Next, you're going to want to coat them with a neutral oil like canola oil, and that's all you need. You can roast them at 300 degrees for about 20 minutes until they start to turn a light brown. If you want to add other seasonings, you could of course add salt and pepper. You could do cumin and chili powder. You could do a curry powder. You could do something like Burberry. I'm going to finish scooping these out, and then we'll be ready for the next step. I have both of my squash halves completely cleaned out. I'm going to set them here on my baking sheet with the cut side up as though they were bowls. First, I'm going to take my olive oil and I'm going to lightly drizzle some onto the flesh of the squash. Then I'm just going to use my fingers and gently rub that around so that it's evenly coated. Next, I'm going to sprinkle these with a little bit of salt and pepper. And they're going to roast in the oven at 375 degrees for about 45 to 60 minutes. You're going to be looking for a caramelized color on the edges, and they're going to be tender to the touch so that a fork can easily slide through them with a little bit of resistance, but similar texture to a cooked potato. So I'm going to pop these into the oven, and I'll check back in with you when they're done. I left my squash in for about 50 minutes. I've pulled them out to cool slightly. You can see that with a fork, I can just slide that in pretty easily. A little bit of resistance, but it's soft and tender. And you can see from the outside of the top that there's some golden, kind of toasted, caramelized edges. So these are ready to eat. You can either scoop out the pulp or you can slice it and peel off the outer skin. These are great blended up into soups. You can chop them up to add them to salads or sandwiches, even maybe as a pizza topping. So I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy your roasted squash.